guys. We're back with our next topic, optimizing websites for accessibility. So first, as always, we'll start with the principles, and then after the principles, the guidelines, success criteria, and technique. So these are an abstract concepts. So I'll start with the metaphor. So imagine a library, disorganized library where there's no stuff that can guide you where to go or where to start um, finding books, right? What's the rules or like different genres are mixed like history, science, philosophy, literature. So here's an example of an disorganized library. So this is an optimized website, which the structure that we did in the previous videos. But now for the structure website or for optimized website, here's the what it looks like. So it's a big library in Korea where the books are organized. You can clearly see where is the history books, the um, literature, science. So you will see also you can ask the stop what section or what area of the library is the group or like what what part of the library has the specific group. For example, the science, technology, those are kind of the same. So it's the same area. So there is principle for that that is implemented by the word WCAG. So WCAG is Web Accessibility Initiative. It's the organization that maintains the accessibility of it provides standards. So they are the one creating this principle. So principles is it's abstract. It starts with perceivable. Information and user interface components must be provided presentable to all users in a way they can perceive. So, for example, image, it must also be offered as a text alternative. So, for an image, there must be a text alternative for those that are blind because usually they use like screen reader. Operable UI and navigation components must be functional and operable for users. For example, all controls of a website should be operable not only with the mouse but also with keyboard. Because, for example, depending on the physical disability, users may not operate a mouse. So, yeah. For example, the user doesn't have the keyboard sorry, the mouse, your system must be able to be operable in keyword basis. So understandable, the text must be understandable. The color must have enough contrast to be readable, and of course, the content must be simple and easy to understand. Robust content must be robust enough to be interpreted by different user, including those that has disability. So those are the principles for guidelines. I won't. I mean, this there's a 13 guidelines inside this. Usually, these principles there's like conform level A, conform level 2A, and then conform 3A. Conform 3A, that's the highest level. It's very difficult to implement. So those are the success criteria. For guidelines, there's 13 guidelines, but it's kind of uh, playing around or going around these principles. It must be usable. Basically, it stems from this principle. And this success criteria stems from this guideline. And then what we will discuss in detail is these techniques. So the WCAG discuss techniques, but there are different courses as well and books that provide a more digestible content other than WCAG. So I would recommend you guys look into those, but I'll just provide the basic principles as always. So this is the example of an optimized for accessibility web page. So for a web page, there's also always a header. So there's a navigation menu, and there's an article uh, section or group into article, aside and footer. Footer, here's where you see the contact information, the legal information. The header is the title of the web page. So it's like in a library, right? If there's a navigation menu or menu, the all the genre like science, politics, is there. You can just see that you can see that immediately on the navigation menu. So that's what makes it optimized. For the section, we will discuss further details with that techniques. So let's see. Um, Using headings correctly. So I'll provide an examples here. Here, accessible HTML5. If you look at the developer tools, guys, here's the body. There's a header that provides the title. And then this is the navigation menu part. And then this is the article. So it's a related article. This is an aside. This is the footer. So this is just an HTML. It doesn't have style, so that's why it's not as good like this table. So making forms accessible. So there's four ways to make forms accessible. First, by assigning the form element an ID attribute, and referring to this ID in the corresponding label via the for attribute. So this is an example of this making form accessible here. So as you can see, guys, it's organized, it's grouped. So when a screen reader like point to this web page, it automatically shows the title of the form. So for this form, like personal details and the name of the form, first name, it shows on the code here, legend. So the for ID here, the ID is equals to browser label 2 is equals and the for the label is equals to the ID of the form. So remember guys, this select it's a form. So it's the first way to or one of the ways to make forms accessible. And another way is by defining the respective form element as a child element of the label. So here's an example. Here, this is the label or opening label, and then this is the child element, first name. So this is an example of that. So this type of form is a text form, as you can see here, first name. So that's another way. to make forms accessible by using the title attribute of the respective form element and defining a caption. So that we will discuss that later. And then by using accessible rich internet application attributes, we will discuss this in the next video because I'm trying to make this into two separate videos because this is an important and a long topic. Making tables accessible. So this is an example of that, making tables accessible. So here, the third example, by using the title attribute of the respective form element. Sorry, no, it's not an example. Um, Making table accessible, enclose table in a surrounding t-head element. So for table, it's usually enclosed in a t-head table head element. So I'll show you an example here. T-head. So here's what it looks like, guys. Here. So it's without CSS, but with CSS or style, here's what it looks like. Surround the individual rows, the data records represented in the table body with the t-body element. So here, the t-body elements, and this is the table row. There's an exception for this, for the t-head, because on the next point, for vertical and horizontal table headings, there's a scope attribute that specify whether the respective table heading refers to the associated column or the associated row. So here's an example. So scope for TH, by default, it use scope as column. So let's say you have a table and you define a TH like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll show you it in visual row table heading. So here, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, if you define a TH, it usually defined as column. But like if you want to define that th as a row, you use the scope attribute here. So the th elements are inside different tr elements, so they cannot be grouped using a t-head element. So that's the reason because th element for this table row are inside the tr element like this. English, music, German, math. It's in this table row. This table head is inside table row. This table, English, music, German. So it cannot have a table head. So basically, the table head is only for columns. If you're defining columns and if you're defining rows, you don't need to use table head as a um, title or of the table because the rule is you need to use a table head for every table to make it accessible because some assistive technologies such as screen reader uh, read that table first before they go into the details of the table so that blind person can know what type of table or what table is he or she using on the screen. So Making images accessible. So informative images. So uh, informative image, you need to use like an attribute describing the image. So because on the principal one, it should be it says here it should be perceivable. So that's how you make image informative. Functional image. Use the functionality of the link or button, not the content of the image used. So the alt description for the image is the functionality. It's not the content. For example, it's for printing, but the image is kind of different. It's like the logo of your company or something. So the alt attribute in the element should be the print because it's the function. It's what it does. So for text image, for logo image, use the same text in the alt attribute. So that's an exception. But you should not usually use text image because you can use a text instead. Why would you use an image for a text, right? It doesn't make sense. Complex images. So for complex images like this, so it's a map of different cities and countries. For this complex image, you can provide a different views, such as this table, for better understanding because it's complex. Usually, for complex things, you need to have different explanations or alternatives. So, making links accessible, make links as meaningful as possible. So, make sure your link provide the meaning on itself. The alternative text should be meaningful. You don't want the screen reader provide the HTTPS or something like that. You have to provide the text attribute describing the links. So that's it, guys. We will discuss further this optimizing the second part. But basically, it's just an organization of web page. So previously, HTML it's disorganized. It doesn't have the structure. But most of the website, guys, you will see the structure: the header, navigation. So it's useful for like developing website in WordPress because like it's like a library, guys. You have those same genre, you have a library guide. So it's a principle that most website try to follow because sometimes if you do not follow this accessibility laws, your website might get down or might be banned by the government for some countries. So yeah, that's it, guys. We'll continue with accessibility on the next video. Thank you for watching.